Glad to see you back for more. And if it's your first time, stay tuned for facts, action, insight, and a smoke flavor-filled podcast. It's All Day with JJ. Let's get into it. Yes, sir. Welcome back, baby. It's the All Day with JJ, AWJJ platform podcast. And what better time to check in than the holiday season, baby? Especially considering the fact that we have a nice, fun-filled episode for those who are viewing today, specifically looking at the first ever JJ's Mental Film Breakdown. For those of you who are just now chiming in, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Last episode, I talked about wanting to incorporate the opportunity for fans to understand what's down the pipeline, what's to come. I specifically put up a poll about a week or so ago saying, hey, for the first film breakdown, I want to give the fans the choice to select what quarterback I'd tap into. I gave the fans a choice of Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, Dylan Gabriel, and Kevin Jennings. It was a close race between Quinn Ewers and Carson Beck. Actually, look right here. I'll showcase some of the percentages and the breakdowns, but Carson Beck, man, he was the one who pretty much edged out right there at the end. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this episode, baby. First and foremost, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Christmas is next week, and this is my gift to you. So I'm going to be expecting some things in the mail from my fans, right? But Carson Beck, man, kid is out of Florida. I want to say Jacksonville. But he's got the prototypical build of whatever you were looking for when you look at a frame of a quarterback. 6'4", 6'5", about 220, 225. I mean, he could practically stand up and kiss the rim. Pause. Let's look at his statistics from 2023, right? He was 302 completions of 417 attempts with 72.4% completion rate, 3,941 yards, 24 TDs, and 6 interceptions. The biggest thing that jumps out on the page to me right there is completion rate. 72.4% is insane in my book. If you were a 7 out of 10 on a quiz, if you get a 7 out of 10 on a test, if your girl is a 7 out of 10, as long as they are 70% or above, C's get degrees, right? Especially when you look at completion rating, 24 touchdowns, like I said, with 6 interceptions. That means he had 4 times, for all of those intelligent people, 4 times 6, 4 times more TDs than he did interceptions, which is always very respectable in my book. But another thing that stands off the page to me is the passer rating. 167.9 passer rating. What's a passer rating, JJ? Passer rating just basically implicates the efficient rate of quarterbacks' ability when you look at their passing, right? It's usually on a scale from about 0 to 150. 9 times out of 10, if you're over 100, that's very, very good. 167, I mean, that's shooting off the charts. Carson Beck, for you guys who don't know, was a 4-star prospect. Coming out of high school, was actually committed to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Don't nobody like them, especially shout out to Nafty Crimson. Nobody likes the Crimson Tide. Go Tigers, baby. But he was originally committed to Alabama and then made that transition to actually decommit. I want to say around 2018. Somebody go double check that. And then transitioned into his recruiting with Georgia, right? He took an official visit and he committed. Who cares about that? Let's move back into the stats. Bringing in his 2024 stats as of right now, he only has 290 completions for 448 attempts, which drops his completion rate from 2023 of 72.4% to 64.7% here in 2024. That's film study. I hate to be honest. That's film breakdown. That's opponents game planning, looking at your film from past years and pretty much pinpointing how they're going to attack you, right? Another big thing about 2024, he has thrown for 3,485 yards, 28 touchdowns, but 12 INTs. INT stands for interception. But he has increased his interception rate by 2. His passer rating, of course, is also probably dwindled. I believe it's now sitting at about 145. But all in all, let's I've taken too much of your time, man. Let's go ahead and dive into the film breakdown and showcase the SEC championship drive in the first half, right before Carson Beck got injured, and kind of gave Georgia the opportunity to put 3 points on the board. To me, it was a very crucial moment in the game, which is why I can't even speak today on the platform for some reason. But that's why I specifically chose that drive to showcase not only Carson Beck's ability, but also the Georgia offense and the Georgia Bulldogs. So for those of you checking in, this film breakdown segment is probably going to be about 10 to 12 minutes or so. If you're just now listening, or you're just listening only and you don't have a visualization aspect like the tube or one of the social media platforms, I'm going to do my best to try to portray what I'm showcasing on the screen. If you're still, if you really don't necessarily care about that, you can go ahead and fast forward about 10 or so minutes, but I am definitely going to recommend you check it out. So let's get it underway. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into JJ's mental of Carson Beck, right? For those of you who have the opportunity to actually watch this on the tube, or you see some visualization aspects on the social media platforms, we appreciate you. But for those of you who are just listening in, I'm going to do my best to give you a depiction of what's going on. To lay the land, there's 10 minutes and 22 seconds left in the second quarter, and Texas is up 6-0 right now. This specific drive is crucial for Georgia, which means the offensive coordinator and Carson Beck must be on the same page. Because if they do not drive the ball down the field right here and put points on the board, Texas can easily blow this game out of proportion. Not to mention, Georgia's the only one that gave them that one ugly loss. So you know that's on Texas's mind. Big thing that I also want to make note of Georgia's offense. Oh, actually, perfect example right here. Texas is very well known for getting the best recruits out of the state of Texas, of course. You grow up in the state of Texas, you want to be a Longhorn unless you got Aggie blood in you. When you look at Big 45 right here, Mr. Vernon Broughton, and Big 95, Alfred Collins, these are very crucial key indicators that Texas probably, to me, has one of the best inside defensive line duos in the country. Not to mention, Mr. Alfred Collins himself was graded the third best lineman on Texas's defensive line last year. When you think of Carson Beck and his NFL profile, you think of the intangibles, you think of the problems that he has, you think of things like his inability to make good reads when the pocket's collapsing, when the pocket is experiencing major blitz. Right here, right now, Carson Beck should already be aware of Texas's defense and their threat up front. 1st and 10. What did I tell you earlier? Georgia runs off of their run game. 9 times out of 10, Georgia being on their own 25-yard line, they're probably going to try to treat it conservative. I guarantee you this is going to be some sort of inside handoff. Boom, just like I thought. I mean, if I was Georgia too, when you look at their history of running backs like Todd Gurley, Nick Chubb, Sonny Michel, the list goes on and on and on. Their run game has been dominant. What drives Carson Beck? Georgia's run game. If you are Texas or an opponent, your main goal should be to stop the run game, force Georgia to beat you, force Carson Beck to beat you in the air. All right, 2nd and 8. 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to have to take a shot. But knowing Georgia, I guarantee you they're probably going to hand it off. But let's dive into Carson Beck's mental right now. He should be already taking mental notes of what he's seeing from a safety corner perspective, right? Looking at these guys right now. So Texas automatically, they have a 4-2 defense, or 4-2-5 defense, right? Your 4 defensive line down low, your 2 inside linebackers, and then one of these guys is probably the nickel. This guy looks like he's going to be the nickel. Looks like he's a little thinner, not quite sure. Either way, Carson Beck should be aware of this. If this corner decides to bail out and these safeties also bail out, that's going to be a cover 4 look. You need to take note of that if you're Carson Beck, as well as the offensive coordinator. Let's see what happens. Boom. Carson Beck snaps the football, sends a guy in motion, hands it off. Another run. But doesn't look like Georgia's able to get anything pretty close right here. Looks like there's a flag on the play. I think there was a neutral zone infraction. We can go ahead and fast forward through that right now. Because of that neutral zone infraction, Georgia's actually, there you see it right there, number 91. Basically right in line with the plane of the football. Because of that neutral zone infraction, Georgia's actually going to get the ability to replay this 2nd and short. When you have a 2nd and short, this is usually the time where offensive coordinators like to take shots. If you're a defensive guy, just know 2nd and short, they in shotgun, they finna take a shot. All right, let's get back to the key indicators. Boom. Might be hard to see this guy because he's a little bit blended in with this white C of the SEC line. This is a 1 high safety. If this guy drives down, 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to be in a cover 1 or a cover 3 look. How can we really tell? If these corners bail before snap, they're probably in a cover 3 look. If you're Carson Beck, what's the biggest thing that you realize? Cover 3 beaters are seams. Seams. Receivers running up the field are the best cover 3 beaters. So if he decides to make the right read, this guy looks like he's going to come down because Georgia's sending a guy in motion. When you see offenses send guys in motion, that's normally just a signal to just try to get the defense to showcase coverages, right? If this guy rolls down, then Carson Beck should automatically be looking in the middle side of the field, middle front of the field, because if this guy drops out, these inside backers, if they're in a cover 3, they're going to be looking to play a hook or something within that 4 to 5 yard range, right? Anything that comes past them, they're not really necessarily worried about it, or they're not necessarily trained on it. Let's see what happens, right? Boom. We get back to it. We press play. Right over the middle, just like I called it. Tight end. Easy pitch and catch. Offensive coordinator, that's a great call. You're taking note of probably Texas's tendencies when you see second and short. Looks like even the ABC cast caught it right here. Circled in 2 inside linebackers. Carson Beck motions his guy, makes the correct read, dumps it off to his tight end down low. Moving right along. Now that Georgia has pushed the football over the 50-yard line, now they can kind of start to open up their playbook a little bit. They still want to be conservative because they don't want to give the football up, but they can start to kind of dive into attacking the game plan. So let's go back to our key indicators now. So we saw last time that they probably were showcasing cover 3 look. We see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys, right? Means they got 5 guys, which means this guy's probably a nickel. Somebody in here is a nickel. I think this guy's probably going to walk down, and it looks like they're going to showcase a cover 2. I talked about cover 3 beaters being seams. Cover 2 beaters, post, babies. You hit a post on a cover 2, it's nasty work, especially when you target one of the safeties. You have to make a safety. If you run, for example, a vert with this guy down low in a post, a vert post, you force this safety, especially if they're not in cover 2 man. Where this cornerback, let's say if they're in a Tampa 2, where these corners just push up, do like a little press, and then they just kind of stick in this little flat zone area. If this guy runs scot-free, you're putting all the pressure on Buddy right here to make a decision on who to cover. We love that. But I honestly think Georgia might run the football. Let's see what they do. Georgia, Carson Beck hikes the football, hands it off, of course. But they get actually good yardage right now. So that is good for Georgia football. That is good for Carson Beck, because now Texas has to respect the run game. So when Texas starts to game plan the run game, what opens up? The pass game, right? This is where Georgia can start to really just attack the middle field. Carson Beck, one of the biggest intangibles that he had within his NFL profile was his ability to throw the football within the hashes, right? He struggles getting the ball to the out routes, but his ability to throw the ball over the middle of the field is quite lethal. Okay, 2nd and 2, 2nd and short. 9 times out of 10, Georgia's ran the football, the last 2 to 3 times. So Texas is thinking 2nd and short, they're going to run the football again. Smart play call right here. Honestly, you can hand the football off. There's no problem with that, but just look at the other opportunities you can get off of that. Handoff right here. If this guy's lined up right here, if this guy goes in motion, I guarantee you it's going to be a boot. If he goes in motion, that means this guy's going to probably want to end up in the flat out here. And this guy right here is probably going to boom, block down, and then try to loop back out into a flat route as well. Which means Carson Beck is probably going to fake handoff and boot out to his back right side. Let's see what happens. We press play. Carson Beck, fakes the handoff. Nice little boot pass. Dumps it off to number 4. They convert the first down. Now, Georgia football is moving. They're doing what they do best. You got 8 minutes on the clock. You can pretty much rely on Carson Beck to keep throwing the ball. Short yardage routes over the middle of the field. Or if I'm Georgia, I'm going to hand it off again. You got to stop me. I've been successful. You bailed me out on one of your flags from having a neutral zone infraction. I'm going to probably come back with a run and then a play action pass over the middle. Okay, what do we have to do every time we watch film, guys? We got to look at the secondary. We have to look at our key indicators. What do we see right now? Texas seems pretty competent or confident in their 4-down line. They don't look like they brought too much pressure. So they look like they know for a fact if they can get enough pressure with these 4 guys and keep these 4 to 5 guys on that back ceiling or that back row, they can pretty much guard any sort of pass and be confident enough that their inside defensive linemen are going to be able to withhold or withstand the center and guards' attempts to pretty much block them, right? Let's see what happens right here, specifically on Georgia's end. Carson Beck's lined up in the shotgun, hikes the football. Are you surprised? Another handoff. What drives Georgia offense? Run game. What drives Georgia football? Run game. What drives Carson Beck? Run game. So they've already taken 3 minutes off the clock. This is a great drive for Georgia. This is why I specifically wanted to pick this drive, not because Carson Beck got hurt right before the first half. But this drive specifically showcases how an offense can come together, work together, and pick apart a defense, right? You look at Carson Beck, you look at his intangibles, you look at what he can do. 2nd and 5, sends another guy in motion. Hold on, let's pause it right there. What are we thinking? Hopefully, if you've been paying attention, cover 2. 2 safeties up high. Corner looks like he's about to press up and play some man coverage. If I'm the OC right now, I'm telling CB, check. I trust my athletes. Because if he somewhat takes a vert down this way and this safety gets bit down into the traffic off of play action, we got one-on-one up top, and I love it. Let's see what happens. Let's see what Georgia decides to do. Boom. Hikes the football. Looks like this guy ran a dig or a 10-yard in route. Looks like he had some hands on him or a little bit like that. Let's just give it a 5-10 second rewind. Guy comes up top of the TV, runs down the 10-yard line. Doesn't look like he had the hands to make the catch. But I want you guys to look at something else. I'm going to pause it right now. Can you guys see this side of the field? What does it look like? Wide open. Because let's watch this safety right here. Let's see what he does. Hikes the football. Looks like he gets drawn in by this little crossing route over there, which means that side of the field would have been wide open. Number 11 drops the ball. It is what it is. It's 3rd and 5. 3rd and 5. You've been driving the football down the field. I'm playing to score. If I'm the coordinator, I'm taking another shot, probably at the end zone, if I'm being honest, or I'm trying to get that first down. All right, let's fast forward through the replays. Kirby Smart's chewing him out a little bit, saying, hey, you're all right, buddy, but it's okay. Boom. Georgia's came out in the shotgun offense maybe 3 or 4 times in a row. What are they going to try to do right here? Probably a middle of the field pass, because they know that Texas can probably stop that inside zone run. Look at this guy right here. He's walked down. Looks like they've moved these 2 inside defensive linemen out to kind of basically showcase or portray a wide look. And it looks like they got a backer walk down right head up over the center, which now these offensive linemen just going to treat this as a 5 down or a bare front, where they pretty much just kind of step up and take them man for man, right? Looks like this guy's probably going to play right here. These guys, these corners, honestly, I think they're probably playing a zone. 3rd and 5, if Texas decides to bring pressure, 9 times out of 10, they can rely on their interior front linemen to get down, make pressure, give Carson Beck problems, right? And they can rely on zone coverage to stop whatever's being thrown at them. Let's see what happens. They don't bring pressure. Carson Beck has to make a quick decision and actually almost ends up throwing a pick. So, thank you for basically diving into that drive right there. 4th and 5. I'm pretty sure Georgia's going to come out and kick the field goal. Let's watch these defensive linemen. They get great push. And what did I tell you about one of the biggest things that are kind of one of the big pinpoints of Carson Beck's NFL profile is his inability to make throws while under pressure when the pocket is collapsing. Doesn't matter, in my opinion, he did his job. He brought the football down the field, gives Woodring a good chance to put 3 points on the board. Bringing it back in, man. Let's talk about the draft projections and his intangibles, right? So I kind of hinted at him a little bit earlier about his ability to kind of move the rock. Definitely has great arm talent, can throw the football across the middle of the field within the hashes, but he struggles when he tries to pinpoint those outside pocket balls or when he tries to throw footballs into those out routes. Those are some of the things that, some of these Bleacher Report, some of these Sports Center, some of these different types of profile, NFL projector breakdowns have pretty much hinted at is his inability to truly, one, make efficient reads while the pocket is collapsing under pressure, and two, his inability to truly pinpoint passes on the outside part of the box when you look at the field, right? All in all, right now, his draft comp is Jared Goff, which is very respectable if you ask me, especially if I'm Carson Beck. I mean, Jared Goff right now, if you look at his career, it's kind of been like this, a little bit descension, a little bit ascension, but right now, sitting 11-2 with the Detroit Lions, also went to the Super Bowl, potentially got a little bit more of an involvement with his situation with Dan Campbell right now. I think Dan is doing an amazing job with the Detroit Lions, driving those guys, getting those guys in the postseason. So Carson Beck being able to have a comp like Jared Goff, to me, is pretty respectable if I'm looking at that from Carson Beck's perspective, right? One of the bigger things that I feel like might be a pinpoint that I want to talk about before we truly end this segment is where he's projected to fall in the draft. Right now, they're saying he's probably going to fall between picks 90 and 100. And specifically, it's probably going to go to Miami. But when you think about the different types of things that Carson Beck has to develop, like his ability to push the rock while under pressure when the pocket collapses, and you compare that to the team like Miami Dolphins, look at the quarterback right now. I'm not saying nothing about Tua. I'm not saying nothing about his past history, but let's look at what he has experienced in relation to his offensive line. Okay? If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. So when you put Carson Beck into that situation, I didn't even realize my freaking trophy was over here falling down. Sorry about that for those who are viewing. But when you think about Carson Beck in his situation, will he be able to succeed in an offense like that? I want you to kind of tap into your own mental and think about that, right? Specifically, I got another question, especially for Georgia fans. Stetson Bennett, right? 2022 Stetson Bennett stats were 310 attempts, 454 completions, 68% completion rate, but he had 4,127 yards with 27 tuds and only 7 interceptions. Who would you rather see as a starting quarterback as of right now? Who do you think is better? Would you rather ride with Mr. Stetson himself or Carson Beck? Prototypical build, can practically jump up and down, great frame. Who would you rather have out there driving the football for the Georgia Bulldogs? I actually had this conversation with my father, and I pretty much was just like, hey, I probably would rather lean towards Stetson Bennett because I feel like his mobility is a little bit better. But Carson Beck has the intangibles that you want in a prototypical quarterback. He's great height, great weight, great size. Moving right along, right? When you look at the quarterback class that's coming out in this draft, you think of guys like Shadur Sanders, Cam Ward, Quinn Ewers, potentially if he, there are a couple of rumors that he might be going to UNC to play for Bill Belichick. But when you look at these quarterbacks in this quarterback platform, to me, Carson Beck is probably not going to be the first guy that jumps off the page to me. I'm probably leaning towards Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders. I really don't know who I would pick between them. Probably Cam Ward, honestly, because I feel like he's just got a better build. But Shadur Sanders is probably the most intelligent football IQ, considering the fact that he also had a little bit of a cheat code with working with Tom Brady. But bringing that back to Carson Beck, when you look at Carson Beck as a quarterback in comparison to his peers, he's not going to be the first off the board. But I don't think he's going to be the last off the board either. Being projected a 3rd or 4th round draft pick is actually pretty exceptional. You're probably going to come out making around $300,000 or $400,000 signing bonus. So congratulations to you, Carson Beck. You're probably already richer than that in NIL earnings. But all in all, the biggest thing that I want you guys to take away from this episode, right? I never forget my freshman year. Shout out to Coach Craig Thorpe. When I was a freshman sitting in a team meeting at LSU and I just started my college football career, he walked into one of our team meetings and he said, we have to stop looking at football games, especially if we consider ourselves players or aspiring coaches. We have to stop looking at NFL Sundays and college Saturdays from a fan's perspective. If you are a young aspiring player or a young aspiring coach, use those free days to literally sit in front of the TV and acknowledge and analyze what is happening in front of you, right? For those of you who have had the opportunity to watch football with me or watch a game, For some reason, as of right now to this day, I cannot sit down and watch the game and not read things like coverages, not read things like tendencies, not look at indicators. From that day on, I've pretty much transformed my thought process when it comes to watching an everyday regular game. So next time you get a chance to sit down in front of the camera, see if you can point out coverages. See if you can point out strengths of the offense. See if you can call out what potentially you think is going to happen, whether it's going to be a run or a pass. These types of things are what are going to allow you to elevate and exponentially grow your caliber of game, your craft, as well as just extending on your football knowledge and just loving the game for what it is. Thank you guys for taking some time out of your day to kind of jump in on this new film breakdown, JJ's Mental Platform podcast episode, chapter, whatever you want to call it. I'm trying to implement into this platform. For those of you who are basically following along in this JJ series, next week we're looking basically kind of drop a little bit more insight on what's happening right now with the NFL. The NFL is only about 2 to 3 weeks away from playoffs actually getting started, and I also kind of want to start throwing in some money line insight for all of those gamblers to kind of give you just a little bit of JJ's thoughts, right? Specifically last night, I took the Chargers, and the Broncos were up 21-10. Chargers end up, taking that dub. So if you know what I mean, I'm actually a little bit dialed in. All in all, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Make sure if you're driving, your seatbelt is on, your hands are on 10 and 2, and you're not looking to the left and the right. And also make sure that you eat as much as you can for Christmas holiday season, and that you tell your loved ones you love them. That's one of the biggest things I feel like we should look into doing when you have holiday season. You should invest in your family, invest in your personal time, and invest in JJ's platform, right? So all in all, thank you for joining in. Hopefully we get to see you next time. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share the content, and be more engaged. If you feel like this was a terrible take, let me know. You're probably an idiot, but I don't care. Let me know. Drop it in the comments. Drop it on the platforms. Do whatever you feel like you need to do to get more involved, more engaged, and just get your opinion across. All in all, thank you for joining in. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year's. If I don't see you until then, we love you. We need you. We support you. And as always, hey, baby, smoke flavor. Stay easy.